When all is said and done, you remain.
Welcome to the Afterwork program radio station. We are live on the radio with the one and only Freedove. Freedove, go ahead and say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in, and thank you so much, Victor, for having me on the Afterwork Theater program. It's a pleasure.
And no, it's actually a pleasure of ours to have you on the station. We're going to learn more about Freedove, her music, her style of music, and some of her personal aspirations. So, what inspired you to start doing music?
What inspired me? I believe that, if I had to say, I think music was the inspiration itself. It was the calling on me. I was introverted as a child, and to some degree, I'm still very much introverted. But there was something about music that just gave me this indescribable feeling that I just couldn't deny. I mean, the first LP, there were LPs back then, that I bought, it was Barbra Streisand's Yentl, and I bought it at a garage sale with some allowance money that I earned from doing chores as a kid. And I took it home and I listened to it, but I didn't have any idea who she was at the time, but I fell in love with her voice and her instrument. And needless to say, I played it over and over again, and I studied it every single day. I mean, I was always in talent shows and competitions, and I was in the school choir when I was a kid. But when I heard Whitney Houston's You Give Good Love on the Quiet Storm station, that changed the game for me. I mean, there were other vocalists like Tina Marie, Angela Winbush, Chaka Khan, Aretha Franklin. I mean, those vocal forces, they were just great inspirations for me. But for me, I think music was just something that when I first began singing, I just loved it. I didn't get a feeling from anything else like I got from music. So that's why I call it my calling, because it kind of just lured me in and pulled me in. You know, I just fell in love with it. Music is just always, it was always in my life as a kid. My uncle was a multi-instrumentalist. My aunt was a concert pianist. My mother was an opera singer before she became an evangelist. My father played guitar. I mean, my cousin sang. My sister, my whole family was musical. But for me, I mean, it was just there for me all the time. Music, it was just always there. It was a calling. And I think that's just what inspired me. Once I began singing and I realized, hey, I like the way it feels. I like the way it sounds. Let's go ahead with it. So, yeah, I would say that was music itself was the inspiration.
What other family members had an impact?
Well, I remember once we always had like family gatherings and, you know, during the holidays, and we all got together at my grandmother's house and, you know, we sang around the piano and stuff. And I remember once everybody was in the kitchen and the dining room eating, and my aunt stayed behind on the piano, and she told me to sit next to her on the bench. And she began to play Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata for me. And it was the first time that music had touched me in that way. And I began to cry, and I didn't really know why I was crying because I wasn't sad. And I remember her telling me that, you know, if you really want to do music, I was about 11, 12, you know, you can do this if you really want to do it. You just have to study and really be committed to it and, you know, stick with it, you know. And that was like, I think that was a pivotal moment in my childhood, because music hadn't touched me in that way, and it was coming from someone who I revered and looked up to so much. So I think in my childhood, that was like one of the biggest influences that I had when she actually, there were many. I mean, I could name you a lot of musical moments that really struck me, but I think off the top of my head, that's like the main one.
Sounds like that had a huge impact on your life. Tell me, what was the most interesting story on how you wrote one of your songs?
I don't know necessarily that it's a story about how I wrote it, but the journey of how a song was written and then came to fruition, I think the most interesting one for me was my most recent single, The One. I wrote it several years ago. I actually woke up singing it. And I documented the first verse and the chorus, and I just did a demo at home, and I kind of put it away for a while, for years actually. So a few years ago, I had a house fire, and that fire destroyed absolutely everything I owned in my home except my home studio. So I thought to myself, wow, God really does have a sense of humor. I've lost everything except my music. So I'm going upstairs to the room that used to be my studio, and right in the doorway of that room, the demo CD that I had recorded years ago of The One was just laying there. And that song, just the lyrics and the message in it alone kept me strong in my faith and ministered to me during those times, because it was a difficult time. So I was going to release it on my forthcoming album, After the Fire, but I felt too strong that it should be a single and it should be released now. It's a message that should be heard now, especially, in the times that we're living in, So I put it out as a single, and it was produced by Gil Small for Groove City Productions, and he's here in New York. That's a shout-out to Gil. Hey, Gil. And by the way, all proceeds of that song will go towards Gulf relief efforts. So please, even though it's not in the daily headline news anymore, people are still putting their lives back together in the Gulf. So you can download that single on iTunes or by going to www.freedove.com and help make a difference.
That's really nice that you're donating your proceeds from The One to Gulf relief victims. Do you have any family members down there as well?
Well, a lot of my family was displaced post-Katrina, but I still have some relatives there, like an aunt and a nephew and a cousin, and I have dear friends, musicians that still live there. Hello to all my New Orleans family. But, most of my family was displaced and relocated during that time. It was a devastating time.
Yes. Now, getting back to your music, how is it that you write your song?
That's an interesting question, speaking of interesting, because I almost feel like I don't write my songs. Most of the time, the songs, they just come to me in entirety, or at least like the melody or the changes are there, the progressions are there. Songs come to me in dreams. I end up singing it. I wake up singing it, and I'm like, oh, what is this? And it's like right on my head, and I have to just take the dictaphone or something and document it down. They come in dreams. Lately, it seems like every time I have someplace important to go and I get in the shower, the song is right there, and I'm like, not now, but it comes whenever it comes. For some people or most of my colleagues, songwriting is a discipline. They just sit down and etch the song out. They write the chords. They thumb along and play along and until the song becomes something. But for me, it's more organic. I have to hear it. I have to feel it, and then I put it down. Now there will be times, of course, when some tweaking or changes need to be made, and sometimes you realize when you're writing a song that a certain section could be reworked, for the betterment of the song. But for me, the ideas are just there, and I just document them. I'll hear it in my head, and I'll just quickly grab a pen and paper or a dictaphone and just start, humming stuff out until I have it down, and then I go and, fine-tune it.
That's incredible.